So it gives me great pleasure to introduce Damon McDonald. Damon is an author, a motorbike adventurer, and a former documentary filmmaker who has a true passion for inspiring others. Damon is here to speak to us about his book, I Am Awesome, and the movement that he is driving. We will have a quick Q&A after he speaks, so please take note of your questions, share them in the chat box, and we'll have time to discuss them afterwards. So I'm now going to hand over to Damon. And Damon, would you like me to share the poem straight away or later on?
In a few minutes, I'll ask you to. I'll just introduce myself. If you tell you a bit of background about me, and then we can go from there. Terrific. Okay. So thank you, everybody, and I'm really excited to be here and just share the journey because it's been inspiring for me to look to others to be inspired, and I now use my journey to inspire others. And so quite often we are inspired by people and they don't know that we're inspired by them. And one of the questions I ask kids is, who are you inspiring by being you? And it's trying to get people to understand that you, just by being you are inspiring others. And so it's an awareness concept. So look, just to backtrack a little bit, as an adventurer, I've always been interested in storytelling, the concept of storytelling, I think. I've had some amazing gifts in my life about opportunities and things like that. But in my 20s, I lived on my motorbike, everything I owned on my motorbike for 6 years, and I just wandered around. And I was listening to other people's stories while creating my own. And that was part of the process of me really being excited about adventure and the concept of telling stories. Then in my 30s, I went to uni and did documentary film. And that was, again, really helping me understand the power of storytelling and how much it affects us every single day, because we do tell stories to ourselves mostly, and they can actually help us or they can hold us back. So that's been really incremental. With that is where I first learnt of this gentleman called Joseph Campbell. Now, he is a comparative mythologist. He is the one who coined the term, the hero's journey. And in his studies, this is back in the 1940s, as a mythologist lecturer, he wrote a book called The Hero with a Thousand Faces. And that simply refers to his reference of studying thousands of different religions, cultures, and the way we tell the story of the hero within the culture. And he's stripped out all the cultural differences and then come with a common understanding that regardless of where you are in the world and what time, in ancient, modern, wherever, there are 12 common, it's part of a pattern. So there's 12 steps to this pattern. And yet that pattern exists in every single person born on this planet. We are all capable of becoming a hero. And this is what he was referencing to, is this process of becoming the hero. And it's our choice. But what are the stories that we tell ourselves which hold us back from becoming that hero? And so this is where I've put my interpretation into it. George Lucas read that book, and his interpretation is Star Wars. And now Disney uses the same 12 steps for their interpretation. Nemo, Kung Fu Panda, Lion King, they all follow the 12 steps of showing how to tell the story of the hero. And so we can actually use those in our own life. And I've done that using poetry to help kids and also adults to understand, A, what's going on at that particular stage, and also what's the next stage coming up. And the idea is it becomes a treasure map. So when you have a clue to get to the next stage, then you can move quicker and faster along the journey. And the idea behind it is that so often we go down the journey following the steps as per normal, and we get scared, we get frightened, we tell the stories, I'm not good enough, I can't do this, I'm not worthy, all of the stories. And we go back to our known, our safety. And it's that process that I want people to break through. The hero has to keep going into the unknown, has to overcome fear to become the hero. And then that journey itself is the journey that really is the inspiration. So you don't teach it, you show it through inspiration. So that's how the hero actually is telling the story, through their own actions, through their life. And so that's the best way to do it, is to inspire. And so the infinity symbol you see on the cover there is the idea that we go out on the journey, we find a mentor, we go on the journey needing the mentor, and then we end up coming back and becoming the mentor once we've achieved that status. So you can do that simply by learning to ride a push bike is the 12 steps. And I'll go through that when we get to that point. How I came to this was me sitting on a rock there in that photo there. I was in Cambodia. 2 hours later, after that photo was taken, I was having a heart attack. And there was an 8-hour journey to get to hospital. Now, what was really interesting about that journey and that particular process there is I'd actually hit rock bottom because I was a stepfather for 10 years. I went through divorce and I was a business person. All of those identities, even dog owner and homeowner, had to go as part of the process of the divorce. And so I was completely lost and trying to figure out who I was in that process. And so I went traveling and jumped on a motorbike and went to Cambodia for a ride around just to sort of clear the head. And sitting there, it was great because I'd been caving earlier and abseiling, and this was just sort of a little break. And then 2 hours later, I was riding back and had a heart attack. I had to get back on the motorbike to get back to town. And so the journey for me was what was really interesting. 2 days later, I'm actually reading the obituaries of somebody I knew who had a heart attack on the same day I had mine. They were inspirational. They were really challenged people's thinking. They were, well known for who they were and what they were doing. And they died. I didn't. I was rock bottom, and they were inspirational. So why them and not me? And so this journey for me was, okay, the heart attack, getting back on the motorbike. I didn't want to die. I just didn't know how to live. That was my journey. And I was like, okay, I have to reinvent myself. I have to start again. Who do I want to become was the hardest question because I was no longer this identity. And so I had to start my own hero's journey. That was my call to adventure. So Amber, if we can go to the slide now, and the process of me writing the book came out of that. Reading those obituaries was me reinventing myself. And the idea that it took a few years of trying to understand that question was, who do I want to become? And part of the process was I was asked a beautiful question, although it was a really tough question, by one of my mentors and guides through this process. You could call them a coach in a sense. They weren't officially a coach, but they were a mentor. But one of the questions she asked me was, what am I lying to myself about? And that's one of the hardest questions that we have to answer. And it's a beautiful question, but it's a tough one. So if we can understand that, and sometimes we end up lying about the lie. So it's a double whammy. It's like, because you're really confrontational, it's really scary, or it's really difficult. We don't want to go down that. We don't want to go into that cave of darkness to work it out. So that's our protection process, I guess, and it's in the journey. So look, if I start the process, you can see there's 12 steps here. I've written a poem for each of the steps and I can use my story as a reference to give you an idea, but you can apply this to riding a bike. You can apply it to becoming a parent, starting a new relationship, new job. Anything in your life is the hero's journey. So your whole life is one, but it's made up of hundreds of little hero's journey steps. This is just a pattern for the process. And so while I didn't invent the 12 steps, this is my interpretation of those 12 steps using the poems to help people understand. So for me, I am here, I am now, this is me, can't you see? Same is the game. Well, that was me, married, stepfather for 10 years, dog owner, just had a great life. Everything was brilliant. And then it all fell apart. And so that was the known. So stepping into the unknown was good or bad, the time has come, destiny awaits the chosen one. So what's that all about? And it's like you can have good or bad opportunities come to you. And sometimes we get the opportunity to refuse the call and say, no, not ready, can't do it. And sometimes you don't get that opportunity. The universe just gives you a whopping big nudge, probably because you haven't paid attention to the little nudges that have previously been coming along. And then the universe will give you one big one, which it gave me. So step one, and we've got that. So if you've got the link that I sent through to you, you can follow those through as well. So we start with the ordinary world, which is the known. But keep in mind that just because it's known doesn't mean it's safe. Now, a child in an unsafe environment is unaware that safety is a good place. So safety is fear because it's unknown. So that's that concept of trying to work out where you are on this particular journey, where you are in this particular pattern. So The Ordinary World is the first poem, and that's that one. So we now move on to the second one, which is The Call to Adventure. How that shows up is depending on who you are, where you are, and what's going on. It can be many, as I said. The best way to start this process, once you've learned it, is to name the journey that you are on. Okay, where am I? I'm starting a new job, or I'm learning to ride a push bike for a child, or starting a new school. So if you name the journey, then you can figure it out a lot easier. And then you just have to work out where you are on the journey. So from Call to Adventure, we get the refusal of the call. This is where most people stop. Because of your environment, because of your upbringing, because of all these other reasons, we tend to stay comfortable, stay known. And even though it might be painful, even though it might be uncomfortable, going into the unknown, which has the potential to be good or bad, it's unknown. And that's why it's scary. And that's why you'll see people who will go through enormous amounts of pain and trauma before they take the step, before they move, because the unknown is scarier. It's a story that we're telling ourselves. Okay. And so this is what interests me from a perspective of storytelling, and why I've written the book the way it is. It's about learning. We have the gifts as genius. We're all born genius. We're all born with talent, but it's our belief in ourselves is what's lacking. And they're the stories we tell ourselves. So we need to learn to believe. So here comes the role of the mentor now. So after going from the refusal of the call, so that's holy moly guacamole, take me back, this is not my track. So that's that feeling of uncomfortableness. The universe will usually present a mentor, or there will be someone in your life who shows up as the mentor for this particular journey. Now, the poem is 1, 2, 3, 5. This will help you stay alive. From old to young, the song is sung. Heed the call, or death to all. Interesting, and there's many layers to this. That's a deliberate mistake, simply because I wanted the poem to rhyme, but I also wanted to create fun for kids as well. So, but it will help you stay alive. It keeps you going. It keeps the journey going by listening to the mentor. From old to young, the song is sung. The mentor has been on this journey before. They know you can do it. You don't. And they know you can do it because they've done it. And they know what's coming. And it's all about this unknown process. So the unknown, I have to keep referring to it all the time because it's so important. That is the thing that's stopping us. The story that we think we know what the unknown represents. It's actually learning what the unknown is capable of, what you are capable of stepping into the unknown. That's the power. So the role of the mentor is to believe in you until you learn to believe in yourself. So from there, we take the next step, which is crossing that first threshold. So tiptoe easy as you go, where you end up, nobody knows. Courage required for this tack, for there is no turning back. Once you start this journey, you really need to keep going. And you're going to be challenged. It's going to be hard. It's going to be painful. It's going to be a lot of fun. There is adventure. There's so many learnings. It's just got to be done. And courage is action. You can affirmation yourself to death, but if you do not take action, if you do not take put the work in play, nothing's going to happen. You have to take courageous action. Step into the unknown. And that's fear. So how do you make fear work for you? You can either have fear in front of you, stopping you, or you can move fear behind you and use it to drive you. That's a choice. So we can go very deep on lots of these different topics, but I'm just going to try and skate through this as quickly as I can. So the next step we get is once we've crossed that threshold, we have to learn to trust, because we're going to have people who are guiding us, people who tell us what to do. They are all these people, and we have to work out who is our friend, our enemy, who's going to help us on this journey to becoming, and what are the stories they tell us. So could it be a parent who's putting their fear onto you? You might hurt yourself. You might lose your money. You might do this. You might do that. But is it your story? Do I take that on board? What's the story I need to tell myself? Okay, so the poem is, I must, in me I trust. Trust in me, I must. We have to learn to trust that intuitive process. We have to learn to get to know who we are to make the decisions. They are hard, we're going to fail, we're going to fall over, we've got to get back up again. That's the process of learning. But learning to trust yourself, and really this concept of people that are in your life, that I create a game in book 2, which is the numbers game, which is I get kids to number their friends 1s, 2s, 3s, 4s or 5s. Number 1s are people who listen to you and support you, lift you up in their comments. Number 2s are people who project their own fears onto you. And then number 3s are people, don't tell them your dreams, just have fun with them, go and enjoy, but don't spend a lot of time with them. Then the 4s and 5s you don't bring into your life. They've got their own journey and they've got their own dramas, and they're going to hold you back. So you really want to walk into a room and look for your number 1s, listen for them and find those people. Create your own tribe of people who lift you up. That's what that stage is all about. So the tests, allies and enemies. Okay. Next we move into approach the innermost cave. So of course there can be no doubt. Look within to find the way out. Every single person has the ability to find the answer. You only have to ask the right questions. So you have to learn to ask the right questions. Whenever you have a challenge in front of you, you have one job: figure it out. And then from there, what do I need to learn? What do I need to do? Somebody has been through my challenge before me. Find that person, ask them questions. You can figure this out. It doesn't mean it's easy. It just means you know how to do it. You have the ability, and it's by finding a coach, helping you understand the process, doing some psychological work, everything. It's all about understanding what are the stories I'm telling myself, what are the stories I need to tell myself to get through this, okay? So it's really creating a deeper sense of awareness for you to understand how much this is just a pattern. And so you can see already these clues in reference to your own journey. You'll see different points. Oh yeah, okay, that's when I needed a mentor. That's what we help with them. I've had people that have let me down, so I can't trust them anymore. I need to find people who I can trust. So it is a pattern that is repeated over and over and over again in your life. Okay. Once we've gone through that,
Sorry, a friendly reminder. 5 minutes left to our next part. So
terrific. Let's do it quickly. Thanks for the reminder. Okay,
nice.
Terrific. We go on to ordeal now. So woe is me, what do I see? Pain and fear is all around me. Okay, that's just figuring it out. That's the hard part. And that's where you've really got to learn to trust yourself. Okay, and so once you can overcome that, the reward is seizing the sword. So standing tall, I smashed the wall. Looking inward, I conquered all. Okay, that's learning to believe in yourself, learning to stand up for yourself, learning to figure it out, changing the stories that you tell yourself, and then moving on. Okay, so then we move on to the road back, which is the battle won. What's done is done. Time to pause for the higher cause. That higher cause refers to other people who are looking at you on your journey. You do things for yourself. So passion is for you, purpose is for others. If you're passionate about becoming authentically you, you inspire others. That's the higher cause. Okay. So then we go into the resurrection side of it. So it's not for you nor for them. It's up to me who has to see I am awesome. It's who you see in the mirror. What are the stories you tell yourself? That's as simple as it is. So don't try and overcomplicate it. Who do I see in the mirror? What's the story I'm telling you? And then from there, you go to the final, which is the return with the elixir. Okay. And it's a long way back down a familiar track. Same, never again. So you'll see in reference to the first poem, same is the game, because we like to stay in our comfort zone, but the universe will throw you out. And once you go on that journey, you're never going to be the same person again. That's simply it. So you can see the pattern, how it's happening. You can see how, referring to this pattern, you can use it to help yourself and where you want to go from there. So happy to share and take any questions now. So, but understand that it is a treasure map. So use the clues to get to the next stage.
Zoe, I'm going to jump straight into questions. Damon, that was amazing, but I'll keep it short because I know there's going to be a lot of questions.
Yeah.
Zoe, jump in.
Thanks, Damon. That was really good to hear, actually.
Mm.
I was just wondering, you can probably never put a time on it, but did you work on this for your own self over a long time, or was it
Still working on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It never ends. It's your whole, because you're on different journeys all the time.
Yeah.
And if you can focus really clearly on what journey am I actually focusing on, working on now, because they're all similar patterns. The same pattern applies to every single journey. So that's why if you can nominate what that journey is you're working on right now, today, at 9 o'clock in the morning, you might be the parent journey. 12 o'clock, you might be on the business journey. 3 o'clock, you're on the relationship journey. So it really is as simple as that.
Thank you.
Okay, I saw another question there. I'm losing the questions. Can you call that out?
Yeah, Damon, I'll read it out. So it's a question from me, actually. I'm curious about the reaction you get from school kids when you share this. I know you do a lot of work with schools.
Yeah, there's less fear from school kids than there is from adults.
Mm.
We're layered. We've got too many layers as adults. Yeah. So kids are a little bit more comfortable with this process and taking it on board, and they still feel fear, but nowhere near as much as adults.
Mm. Beautiful. Other questions? Jump in, guys.
Does anybody want to be brave enough to sort of share an experience for them in terms of meeting a mentor, for instance?
While people think about that, because I think that's a big question, but an excellent question. I'd love it if anyone has a story to share there. I'm curious, you talk about your number ones, number twos, number threes in the upcoming book.
Yeah.
Do you have any tips on how to get better at asking for help from some of those people? Because I feel like that's certainly with my coaching clients, it's often a challenge for people to ask for help, particularly if they've not been asked for help. You know, I feel like it's a vulnerability thing where you sometimes need to be the first person to say, hey, I need help. Once you've done that, that person is then more likely to ask you for help.
Sure. There's, in terms of business, what I've learned through my own journey is if I'm asking a business person for help, there's two things I do. Is I respect their time, and the second thing is I respect their time. So the first one is they're busy people because they've got there because of what they do. And the second thing is they've been in the game a lot longer than you. So there's two aspects of time. If you show respect to both of those, I have never been knocked back on a question. Okay, so I just had to learn to tell myself to ask the question, because I was the one holding myself back by not asking the question. It wasn't them.
Yeah.
It was me holding myself back. So focus on yourself. Why aren't you asking the question? And because we tell ourselves it's fear, or they might say no. Well, you won't know until you ask. But you have to, if you're just respectful and gratitude, if you show up with gratitude, you will never get a no.
Beautiful. I can absolutely share, like even just in organizing this, the amount of people that have offered significant amounts of time, obviously all of the coaches, the attendees, the counterparts, but also Panda and Kira, several hours in getting this all set up, getting everything sorted. And yeah, everybody's doing it for the love of it, for the interest, which is amazing. So, you know, if you'd asked me 2 months ago, I'd be like, oh, I don't know that many people would really want to do that with their time on a Friday.
And that's a story.
Exactly.
That's a story.
I would love to do that with my time.
So that's it. So you have to be aware of the stories you tell yourself.
Yeah. I'd love to circle back. Are there anyone on the call that would like to share something that is related, meeting a mentor, or have questions for Damon? It's a great opportunity to, you know, Damon has a huge amount of experience and passion in this space.
I've got a question. Sorry, does someone else want to go?
It was only me. You go, though. We've known each other since we were.
Victoria, I'm going to hold you up on that. That's a story. It's only me. Okay?
Damon, do you have? What do you say to people where the desire is so strong, but the motivation just wanes, and it's sort of the vicious cycle of unable to match the desire with the motivation. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'm going to be brutally honest here, so be aware. You don't want
Don't
it bad
worry.
enough.
Yeah, that's right. Okay.
You just don't want it bad enough. I know it sounds funny, and I know it sounds counterintuitive, but you just don't want it bad enough. You've got to really. And what's holding you back? Why aren't you wanting it bad enough?
Yeah.
It's all good and well to tell yourself the story. Oh, I want this and I want that, but if you are not putting the action in place to match the words, so if you're not in alignment with your action and your words, you don't want it bad enough. Figure that bit out. Okay, so what's going on?
Okay, thank you.
And that came from a mentor. So it's not, he told me, you don't want it bad enough. And I thought, okay, that hurt. So it's a truth that we have to have, and truth hurts sometimes. But once I worked that out, you know, there's nothing stopping me in this particular journey. But in other journeys, I didn't want it bad enough, so I can let them go. So it's actually freeing me up now because I didn't really want it bad enough. So I don't have to focus on it anymore. And just be brutally honest.
Thank you.
So Victoria, what was yours?
Oh, I was just, so I'm a filmmaker in my other life, so I'm very familiar with the hero's journey.
Yeah.
I really love listening to you and love seeing it used in this way. But I was just reflecting on, you know, that the resistance to the call to adventure, and like if you can get over that, if you can answer that call to adventure, then in some ways that's the hardest part, you know, and then the rest can kind of follow. Yeah,
absolutely. The call to adventure is probably the hardest first part, and then the awareness is really trying to figure it all out. So we don't even know we're stuck sometimes. We don't even know we're telling a story. We're so used to saying it. That's the whole point. So that's why sometimes the universe makes it a really big slap across the back of the head that you need to move or shift. You know, we stay in relationships way too long, even though we've been told to get out, get out, get out. We keep making excuses to stay in them. Why? Because it's still comfortable enough just to be there, but it's not uncomfortable enough to get out yet. And then it's going to reach that point with, damn it, I've had enough. So yeah, it is a challenge, but the call to adventure is the first part. All the others are challenges. Working out who you can trust, overcoming your fears, like looking into the cave, because that's where your treasure is, but you don't want to go in the cave. So it's all part of your human psyche. Yeah. But I love it that you're doing film. It's great. I really love film and storytelling. So,
Amazing.
terrific.
Thank you so much, Damon. Thank you also for condensing that. I know that you know, there's a lot to cover and there's so much more that we could get into. We're going to keep moving through now. So we're going to cover some information on coaching and goals before those of you who are coaching or being coached go into your breakout rooms for 30 minutes. Those of you who are attending as an attendee, you are absolutely welcome to stay on and learn a little bit about coaching. That is a big part of why we're doing the Coach Cafe. So I would love for you to stay on, but I also acknowledge that your time is valuable. So if you do need to go, that is absolutely fine. I will share the link for the feedback survey with you.